Can I have a glass of water, please? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nick, Matt Murdock's cousin. You can obviously see the resemblance. I can't because I can't. Today I'm here to talk about something that I have been impatiently waiting for quite some time, and that's Daredevil Born Again. That's because I'm a fan of Marvel's work, especially when it comes to their TV series department. Since Walt Disney now fully owns the rights to all Netflix Marvel shows, I was concerned if the reboot would bring the same quality as the first 3 seasons of Marvel's Daredevil. To be honest, I was surprised to see that they've included the same brutalism and shocking scenes that they used on the original show. There are emotional moments, good direction, and incredible cinematography on some of the episodes. Here's a disclaimer for you. This video contains spoilers, so don't even think about suing me if you haven't watched the whole season yet. I know how to defend myself in any possible way.
Before discussing the best moments, let's first make a quick review and summary of the show. It was nice to see traditional characters that we already know, like Karen and Foggy, though Foggy's part was very short after the poor bastard got killed by Bullseye in the first episode. The Punisher, and of course the mighty Kingpin who becomes mayor of New York. I initially thought that it would be banal to put so much focus on Fisks as one of the main anti-heroes again, but it was actually done in a different light this time, so it was cool. We also see some dirty cops, fanboys of the Punisher, being part of the whole picture as Fisk's personal militia, plus we got introduced to a new villain called Muse, who's a serial killer painting murals with his victims' blood. The story includes a new love interest for Matt as the psychologist Heather Glenn, who, as luck would have it, is not only our main hero's girlfriend, but also the psychologist to some of the bad guys. I also like the internal conflict Matt had on whether he should be Daredevil or not, and that he desperately wanted to make a difference as a lawyer rather than as a vigilante. Furthermore, I think the Kingpin and his wife definitely had some development. They had more dynamics in their relationship, which we previously didn't observe to such extent. I also think that the word reborn in the show's title applies for Wilson as much as it does for Daredevil. He too had internal conflict, being torn between being one of the most powerful crime lords in New York and being the new mayor of the city, and being a husband of his word. In the end, he too gets a return to his true nature, but in a new and upgraded way, by being Kingpin, the public figure, playing chess on the political board quite successfully, exerting control on the entire city, and devising a plan with the Red Hook port. So I believe to a certain degree the creators of the show managed to give the audience something new to appreciate. Things weren't all flowers and roses though. The writing wasn't consistent in some episodes, and there were a few times I saw events or scenes that seemed unreasonable. Sometimes the CGI wasn't that great either, and that added up to the slight turn from the original show's darkness and sense of realism. As real as it could look for a production based on a comic book superhero, of course. Besides Fisk, the other villains couldn't really make it difficult for Matt, as neither Bullseye nor the new character Muse were much of a challenge for even a dusty Daredevil. Not to mention the bank robbers that Murdock crossed paths with. The only time he needed some help was when he still had a fresh bullet wound and Fisk's task force was about to break into his apartment. Overall, there weren't too many awesome fight scenes in the whole season as well, besides the final episode, which really was top-notch.
Taking all of the above into an account, the show had its flavor. That's why I'm gonna take a look at my favorite 6 moments of Season 1's Daredevil Born Again. But I have to be straight with you. Although these are in my opinion the best moments of the whole season, some of them I could critique as well. That's why I won't be holding back when I tell the good and the bad. Now let's jump right into it. Before we begin, I'd like to share with you that these videos cost me a lot of time and a lot of effort to create them. So I'd appreciate it if you show some support by subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Now, back to being blind.
We have a large protest. Peaceful so far, but
Number 6. The first fight between Daredevil and Muse. The first fight between our boy and Muse has to be in the list. Daredevil found Muse's hideout a bit too fast, just as Angela, who by the way is merely a teenager and managed to locate it after the police couldn't. Matt made a sharp entry and didn't have any words for the twisted artist, only punches and kicks. But hold on for a second, I would have to give a huge shout out to the cinematography here because it was impressive. Notice the moment when Muse shows up from his lair to get a scope of the subway tunnel when he realizes that someone else could be approaching. There was an awesome shot where the red backlights of the train that passes by Bastion and the tunnel lamps leave small reflections in his dark eyes. Given that his face wasn't lit much by any significant key lights and there was only a stronger backlight from another train that was approaching, the result was a very intimidating masked psychopath whose look tells you nothing but sadism and aggression. His look has a quick change though as he realizes that it's none other than Daredevil running towards him. Matt shoots his billy club to the wall behind Muse, closes the distance fast and lands an explosive Superman punch.
Not the best one I've seen on TV, but still.
He proceeds to serving justice and performs one of his signature moves, the backflip kick. After that, Muse tries to put up a good fight and manages to evade a few hits, then tries to use a weapon to even the score. He also wanted to attack Matt from behind after Matt went up to Angela to check more closely what was being done to her. But our boy's heightened senses always give him a heads up and he reacts quickly. He does get bashed by a second weapon that looked like a short chain though. Bastion tried to use his moment to actually kill Angela because I guess at this point he was very frustrated and just wanted to vent his anger at someone. He couldn't do it with Matt, so the next best thing. Bastion also tried to show his taekwondo moves. He does land a couple of kicks on Daredevil, but it seemed like Matt didn't block those on purpose. He saw that this guy couldn't give him any particular hard time, so he wanted to receive some damage that would spike his fighting spirit and fierceness, so he can reminisce of what it was like in the old days.
You two are getting older, buddy.
You can tell that was the case when he did that battle rage shout and proceeded to get Muse's ass handed to him. In the end, he gets the billy club's rope around Muse's neck and I think he would have strangled him to death, but he could hear Angela's heartbeat slowing down even further, so he chose to let Muse go and save the girl. While Matt is taking care of Angela, Muse manages to escape. They got round 2 later on, and you can probably guess that Matt busted his ass again. I was disgruntled with this because I learned that in the comics, Muse is actually a pretty formidable opponent, and his special powers do make it very hard for Daredevil to detect and fight him. That's because not only does he possess superhuman strength and speed, but mostly because his body acts like a black hole that absorbs sensory information, thus making him almost impossible to perceive even by Matthew. However, we didn't see any of that in the show. On the flip side, I'm gonna give a point to the screenwriting because as fate would have it, in season 1 of the original show, there was a flashback revealing the moment Matt started being a vigilante by saving a girl who was being abused.
You touch your daughter again, and I will know.
And fast forward to this moment, after a hiatus, he came back to save another girl from certain death. Number 5. Frank and Matt's first meeting. I really miss those two having existential crisis conversations, so it was cool to see them reunited in the 4th episode. Using his special abilities, Matthew manages to find Frank Castle's hideout and enters the room. Initially, Frank thinks that the intruder is someone he should kill, but when he realizes who he really is, he settles down. It seems that the Punisher hasn't really been communicating with many people for some time. He's also been taking some pills, maybe sleeping aid, who knows, and has been somewhat negligent to his appearance. Matt shows him the bullet cartridge with the Punisher logo used for the murdering of the White Tiger, and that's the moment we get a confirmation that the dirty cops are actually Frank's bullshit fanboys, as he calls them. It seems that Frank has been under the radar for some time, maybe because he was fed up with all the stuff that's been going on around the city. The way I saw it, he was looking for some peace and quiet away from everything while keeping an eye eye on events and making a plan for future moves. And when Matt tells him that this looks like some hiding and idleness to him, Frank snaps. He gets offended because maybe to a certain extent it wasn't a lie. And that's when I think their conversation starts getting emotional and definitely different than the other ones they've had. That's because Matthew actually hits a nerve with this. But it gets even better because Frank does some reverse psychology and tells our favorite blind lawyer that he's full of guilt, shame and pain because when you draw the line, Daredevil couldn't save his best friend from dying, and the guilt has been eating him up so bad that Matt can't admit that his urge for serving justice and punishment stems from Foggy's death. He can't even say his name, and Frank calls him out about this.
Ah, for Christ's sake, say his name! Say his name, you coward! Say his name!
This hit home because all the pain Matt has been holding on to started showing up and he even started crying. But Frank was right and he could see past Matt's reserved behavior and politeness he uses as a mask because he himself has been feeling that guilt, shame and grief ever since his family got killed. Matt is still trying to convince Frank, but himself even more, that he had a trial case against Bullseye and the system worked as Poindexter got a life sentence. However, the truth is it still didn't feel enough retribution for what he did to his best friend and to everybody else he's killed. They end their conversation talking about Foggy and Matt states something they both seem to need absorbing, that they have more in common than one would think and that although Foggy couldn't do what they can, he was the decent and kind person they could never be. I really like this scene because although these two have argued about such a subject before, this had a somewhat different twist on it, and it really brought up a lot of emotion in both of them, especially Matt, who's been keeping it inside. Number 4. Bullseye vs Daredevil. Number 4 for me would be the shocking opening of the first episode when Bullseye decides to make our favorite legal trio's life miserable again by attacking the bar they're having a drink at. There was actually a diversion using Foggy's friend to get Matt out of the spot for a bit so Poindexter could come in and do some killing. And killing he did, as not only did he shoot other people that became collateral damage, but he also shot Mr. Nelson close to the heart, so Foggy got to live a few minutes in extreme fear and pain, and Karen was trying to do the best she could to comfort him. Benjamin gassed the whole place and approached the entrance. It was about to get even uglier, but Daredevil arrived swinging and jumped right at Bullseye. They start fighting in the bar and it was a good fight, but you could tell there was something strange here when it comes to the smoke in the room. I don't know what part of it was practical, what was VFX compositing, but it kind of looked a bit odd. Anyway, Benjamin's tactic was again to use his enhanced throwing powers and his knives. He also didn't miss the chance to hurt other people there who were trying to leave the bar, some of them assisted by Matt's investigator Cherry. Although Bullseye threw quite some knives that stuck in Matt's torso, that wasn't fazing our blind lawyer too much.
This didn't sit quite right with me either, but anyway.
You could see that unlike Marvel's Daredevil Season 3, Bullseye couldn't land too many hits on Matthew. He was generally doing damage by throwing blades that, as I mentioned, couldn't hinder the Devil's performance for too long. Poindexter actually looked slower in his fighting moves and got fatigued pretty fast. Matt gradually started getting the better of Dex, so Dex wanted to make his way to the rooftop and escape. We got the chance to remember some of the good old classic one-shot moments on the stairway, as Bullseye wanted to kill whoever got in the way just for the fuck of it, and he was desperately trying to kill Daredevil strictly from a distance because you could see he was very exhausted at this point. The Devil of Hell's Kitchen just didn't stop moving towards Dex no matter how many knives landed into his body, and it's there on the edge of the rooftop that Matt finally won the fight just to hear his closest friend draw his last breath and die. It was clear that this was a planned hit ordered by someone, so Matt desperately asked Bullseye why he did it, only to get a feeble yet mocking and sadistic laugh from him. So in a moment of great pain and justifiable anger, Daredevil just pushed Bullseye off the roof with the intent of killing him. Oof, that didn't sound or look too good. Miraculously, after a fall like that, the former Special Agent Poindexter manages to survive. Number 3. Daredevil and The Punisher team up. I gotta put this on the top 6 list as well. After all, it's the first real team-up between the Devil of Hell's Kitchen and Frank Castle, so it's a special moment. Although still not in optimal condition, Matt leaves the hospital and gets back to his apartment to find Frank there so they have a friendly catch-up chat.
What do they call you now? Nightgown man.
How about you? Aftershave and a haircut? That all for me?
It turns out that Karen called Frank and asked him for a favor, to support Matt against the Kingpin's anti-vigilante task force, because as capable as Matthew is, he is just one man with a fresh gun wound at that, and the crooked cops number has gotten quite large by episode 9. Both of them knew was about to go down as a task force group was about to enter the apartment. They don't miss a chance to state their differences in their conviction, because Frank was getting heated to chop them up, and of course Matt prefers to spare her life. Matt goes to the other room to change clothing, and then the fun begins. Just as usual, we see Matt blocking and knocking enemies out to neutralize them, while the Punisher lives up to his nickname as he's devoted to make mincemeat out of these assholes in a brutal way. He gets pretty busy with the gun, and we can see he isn't sparing any bullets, but with the knife he's an absolute butcher. This scene is once again a perfect example of the different approach each superhero has, and reminds us why we the audience like both characters so much, maybe partly because of different reasons, which makes it even better. They get the win against Kingpin's man, and by spotting a skull-branded cartridge case, they actually find the guy who killed Hector Ayala, aka the White Tiger.
Rest in peace to Camardelos Reyes, who tragically passed away shortly after season 1 ended shooting.
Right after he was exonerated in court. As angry as Daredevil was, he couldn't bring himself to kill the guy. Of course, Frank was ready to do it for him, and they get right back to the same old argument. Their dispute was short as Matt sensed a grenade that was about to be thrown into the apartment, so they barely make it out of the premises by jumping through the balcony using Matt's billy club and land on a guy's car. A moment later, Karen arrives to pick them up. I like the team up between those two, and the fight was good. The only thing I wish was that the director made a little less slow motion shots during the fight, but it could be just me. Number 2. The Fisks Ball. The Fisks black and white ball in celebration of the Red Hook Port revitalization project was undoubtedly one of the best things in season 1. The whole event had a prolonged duration, and it was a pretty good example of high and low points of tension. The ball is also a pivotal moment in Wilson and Vanessa's relationship. It seems they managed to get past their personal drama, which stemmed from things like the Kingpin being away from her for so long without giving her any information of him, like her boy toy Adam that she had an affair with, and the issue they've been having with the street gangster Luca. They reconcile, re-establish their synchronicity and full trust to one another, and as Vanessa tells Heather, they no longer require a psychologist's help, as they've managed to deal with past sins and are now a healed, happy couple. Fisk also consolidates his power by talking to other political and public figures, and it seems like he manages to get his grip on them. Because his girlfriend is invited to the ball, Mr. Murdoch realizes that Wilson and Vanessa are her clients, and that the Kingpin is perhaps keeping a closer distance to Heather so he can get to Matt in multiple ways. Matthew arrives to the ball venue and has some explanation to do when he talks to Heather. He is distracted though as he listens to Fisk's private chat with Jack Duquesne, as the Kingpin extorts Jack for financial support on the Red Hook project by threatening to expose him as the vigilante, the swordsman. Matt tries to explain to Heather why she can't trust the mayor and his wife, but he can't make sense because obviously he can't tell her the whole truth as he's keeping his superhero identity in secret from her. At this moment, you can observe a clear display of Fisk's confidence, power and control over the situation, and the satisfaction of realizing a grand scheme with the port without any incrimination or fear of justice obstruction. And in contrast to this, you see Matt's anger and frustration of knowing there's nothing he can legally do to stop him. However, as Matt and Heather are standing right next to the power couple on the dance floor, Matt overhears a very short conversation between the Fisks. He starts connecting dots and gets to a huge realization that it was Vanessa who ordered the hit on Foggy to Bullseye for some reason, not her husband. He even suddenly cuts in for a dance with her so he can accuse her, but she stays cool and wouldn't admit it, even though Matt would know if she lied. And as the ball event is happening, gang, Benjamin Poindexter manages to get some fresh kills in prison by spitting his tooth in the face of a guard.
Which was a bit too much, but you know what's too little? The subscriber count on the Video Entertainment Talk channel. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and don't miss a thing when it gets published. Thank you.
Dex then throws some scissors around to finish the job. Disguised as a guard, he escapes prison undetected and reaches the building where the ball is being held. He quietly kills an agent and gets his rifle. He looks for a shooting position on the second floor of the hall. And what I saw next was also something that didn't make much sense to me. Bullseye kills people, giving them headshots with all sorts of objects that fit his palm, but he needed a rifle with optics to aim for a while to kill the Kingpin from a, let's say, a 15-meter distance, and nobody from the first floor even saw him.
Come on.
Just as Dex pulls the trigger, Matt hears him and jumps in front of Fisk to take the bullet. Again, this wasn't something that made much sense to me. Daredevil and the Kingpin hate each other's guts, and although Matt couldn't bring himself to kill Wilson personally in the past, risking his own life to save his lacks some logic. He later told Karen that he heard the weapon's trigger clicking and just reacted without thinking, just as a hero would do, of course. And he also told Frank that he himself didn't know why he'd done it. As the shooting takes place and our protagonist gets shot in the left shoulder, the audience gets to watch some pretty amazing slow-mo shots of the chaos that goes down, and some awesome ones of Matt laying on the floor in pain about to faint as a shocked and scared Heather is right next to him. I enjoyed the different perspectives, like the top and mirror shots, as well as the lighting and color grading that accentuated on Matt Murdock's other half. By the way, I once again couldn't deny the directors and producers' ability to choose a great song that fits a certain scene, as Storm Cloud Rising by the Florida Mass Choir made the whole thing even better. And number 1, episode 1's ending scene. Number 1 for me is actually the closing scene of season 1's very first episode. There are a number of reasons why this felt like a very powerful moment. You can basically sense the setup of the whole season. The Kingpin standing on top of the building, looking down on the people while they're causing mayhem due to his election. You can see his smug, cunning grin as he was definitely pleased reaching his goal of becoming mayor. Even though he really wanted to bring prosperity to the city, you already know this move is obviously part of a bigger picture and plan by being something more than a crime lord in the eyes of the people. In the same time, you can tell that he considers those people beneath him in every meaning of the word. This was a display of master manipulation. On the other hand, you see Matt walking amongst the people who are causing chaos as a person of the common folk. He senses everything that's happening around him, including screams for help. That's when the Daredevil calling starts rising in him again, and you can just feel it thanks to the awesome symbolism of the red light that blinks on his right. He knows the direction where all this is going. He feels Fisks look locked into what's going on down there. All the lighting as well as the surrounding smoke really make the final shot look fantastic, as those elements along with the camera going upward make our hero stand out as the main guardian of the people in the city. And it's like he wants to remind the Kingpin one more time that if he slips, Daredevil will be right there. And if visually all this wasn't enough, I got even extra hyped by the great choice for music, because when you hear a song from TV on the radio, you know it's tied to an epic ending of an episode from a hot TV show.
Stay out of my territory.
Exactly.
In general, Daredevil Born Again is not quite on the level of Marvel's Daredevil, but still a nice show. So, thank you Disney for not completely f***ing it up. If you ever got sued, you'll get free representation in court, so holla at me. If you like the video, you can subscribe to the VET legal firm, and in exchange, we'll do a pro bono if you ever got in trouble with the law. Until next time, and take care.